you know, if you don't give somebody terms, you don't do the deal.
If there's anybody at this summit that we need to talk to who has a perspective philosophically about the projections of the cannabis industry, it is the Distillate Dawn himself. Distillate Don, how you doing?
Thanks, Thomas. What a great introduction. I'm doing good, man. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Totally, totally, man. So how are things?
Things are good, man. Things are good. Just like, you know, we were just talking about focusing on health, focusing on being here for the long run, not the short run.
Yep. You recently relaunched your podcast.
Yeah. Well, we've been steady at it, but yeah, we've been getting more disciplined at releasing them.
Yeah. And the name of your podcast is
The Farm Table.
The Farm Table.
Yep.
And you've had a whole slew of awesome co-hosts.
You know, we really try to bring in not only people from the state, obviously we love to pump New Mexicans, but also people from the industry across the country. I think that New Mexico is often overlooked, so I really want to bring in, and we bring them into Albuquerque. We don't do no fucking, you know, whatever video call podcast, which nothing against that, but we bring them into Albuquerque. We sit down, we smoke with, you know, some of the biggest names in the industry. And yeah, it's important for us to share our culture with them just as much as they share their stuff with the world, you know?
So Don, I want to jump right into it, man. Before I get to even asking too many questions, I want to let you just go ahead and lead off. You're so well equipped, you know, with data and everything. Just what did you take from today's summit?
I took from today's summit that things are changing. Things are changing in the industry. You know, New Mexico opened up Wild West style, license for everybody. And, you know, I kind of warned everybody that this was what Oklahoma did and that we needed to tread lightly, be cautious, because an open industry is not necessarily a good industry. And I think we're seeing today that a lot of people have been weeded out of the industry, no pun intended. But a lot of people have not made the cut. And I think that, you know, schwazze has kind of shown why. From compliance to consistency in products to, you know, being able to supply a large distribution chain is not easy. And I think that a lot of these locals and non-locals and whoever came into the state or opened up in the state and thought it was going to be easy. With strict regulation and a saturated market, man, it's nothing but easy. And it's everything but easy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you really start to realize that if you're not able to kind of hang with the big dogs and be able to serve a large distribution network, stay compliant, label everything correctly, have packaging that's worth a fuck. You know, if you're not able to present yourself professionally, follow regulation and kind of go through all the hoops, you're not going to make it. And that's, you know, to all the, you know, we're a mom and pop, you know, a lot of people confuse that. It's just me and my wife, but to all the kind of mom and pops that came into it, not necessarily knowing how hard it was going to be. I think it's been a, you know, hard road and just a really rough realization of how it really is. And it's not, weed does sell itself, but that's when you're the only weed man in the area.
Right.
When there's 30, 40, 50 shops in your town, it's not the same. How many are in Albuquerque? 300?
Yes.
Albuquerque's a fucking pit.
Yep.
Of a fighting pit right now,
Yep.
A gladiator pit per se.
There's only 15 million coming out of the city, and we have 200 stores, maybe 300 in the area.
Which is nuts. They should have capped it, you know, and, you know, fuck off if you got something to say about that, because no, it's not about everybody needs a chance, blah, blah, blah. You know, there are people that are losing their houses. There are people that are losing their fucking families, assets, because they just weren't equipped to step into the market. And I think it's incredibly important that before somebody jumps into something like any type of business venture, that they have the capital and they're equipped to do so. And we've seen tragically across the state, so many families, mom and pops, and who knows, Joe Schmoes, that just weren't equipped to handle it. So yeah, it's...
Right now we're over 1,000 licenses that have closed since the launch.
That have closed. Oh my gosh. And so obviously so many more that are open.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, the amount of people that are jumping in right now, and it's like, they don't know, have they not been paying attention? Right. So it's definitely a rough industry. It's a harsh industry. The competition's high.
So about that, I don't think, the general populace doesn't know because they see the news, they saw Colorado, they always hear, oh, cannabis made $1 billion. So they think everything is just
$1 billion. Yeah, it's not
losing money. But what we're doing is it's oversaturated, so we're all sharing crumbs.
Here's the thing: in business, they teach you should learn at one point or another supply and demand. It is a driving force of whatever the fuck you're doing. Supply and demand. You don't want to be toppled on both sides. You want an even scale of supply and demand. You want to have enough supply and enough demand. When the industry out here first started, there was very little supply, very high demand. We have toppled, we have completely 180, whatever you want to say, we have flipped that. So now we have high supply, low demand. We're not getting any more tourism. There's not 21-year-olds coming to age at a massive rate. We have kind of the same demand that we've always had, but now we have a massive supply. So you want to talk about the fucking equation.
So talk about
that's easy.
Let's talk about the massive supply. Recently, we've really been talking a lot about the plant count.
Yeah.
And they're trying to answer it in all these different ways, right? We've had these different bills come up. Give me your take on.
So they let the cat out of the bag. That's the take. You can't allow, in this country, you can't allow somebody to do something for a certain period of time by law and then tell them you can't do it anymore. Those are lawsuits waiting to happen. So every big dick that got 20,000 plus fucking plant count, you think they're going to let the state say, no, we're going to bring that back to 10. Fuck no. Right. You're messing with people's money, and these people have enough money to take them straight to court, tie everything up in injunctions and whatever in the court system and say, yeah, you already told us. The cat's already out of the bag. You already said we could have 20,000 plus plants, whatever the number is. But at this point, putting any number on the amount of plants a single business can grow would just be found as arbitrary in really any court of law. What they should have capped is licenses, and they should have capped the plants out the gate. Yeah. They've done something. The genie's out of the bottle, toothpaste is out of the tube. However you want to say it, they've done something that can't be undone. Right. And I think the state is going to fumble and look stupid once again, trying to retract any sort of plant counts they've already put out.
So would it be a safe projection to say that there will only be big dogs at the end of the table?
Well, and you got to understand, because of that, maybe not, but that is a key factor in why that'll play out. And this is any industry. Look, when soda pop and soda fountains and, Cokes, whatever, when soda first came out, there was just a massive amount of mom and pop soda companies and all this stuff and soda fountains where anybody can really enter the game. Very soon, there was your big 10 or big 3, and now it's come down to Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? And there's a couple little ones in between, and shout out Jones Cola, one of my favorites. They are kind of more of a craft soda brand, but man, there's not that many of them. Mm-hmm. And in the grand scheme of however many there were in the beginning, the industry matured just like any industry, and now there's only so many. And now you go into a gas station and they're going to have Coke, they're going to have Pepsi, they're going to have Mountain Dew, they're going to have Dr. Pepper, they're going to have Fanta, but they're not going to necessarily have Jones or Virgil's or, any of the other craft kind of smaller brands. And you kind of see that each industry, as it matures, is kind of built to push out the little guy. So it's no different in cannabis. Regulation, barrier for entry, just overall having to be a giant to survive immediately cuts out the little guy.
So talking about that, Don, what are some things that you personally at Farmers have experienced as like, I don't know if I'll fucking recover from this?
You know, unpaid,
some of those things?
Unpaid invoices. You know, that is one of the no, unpaid invoices. You know, straight up, that is one of the biggest thing that plagues our industry is we're kind of forced into terms. Obviously, nobody wants terms. Cash on delivery. If you can go cash on delivery, fucking go cash on delivery. But we're a lot of times forced into terms. Yeah. And a lot of times they're, you know, if you don't give somebody terms, you don't do the deal. So those terms turn into net nevers and big fuck yous, and it cripples small businesses and large businesses alike. Yeah. So we've dealt with a huge share of debt. If you owe people money, pay your debts. Nothing good's going to come out of not paying your debts. But, you know, and I think that not only us, you know, as a company, but every company has dealt with that. You know, trust, building a team. Yep. You know, we have a great team. We have amazing employees, but we've dealt with our fair share of, you know, disappointments and losses and people that, you know what I mean, weren't the right people for the job or were the right people for the job and ended up leaving for whatever reason. So, you know, the hardest thing as a business owner is building that team. And so that's been, you know, we've definitely felt heartache as a company, you know, losing the right people and losing the wrong people. Yeah. You know, sometimes it can hurt the same, mm-hmm. you know, so that, but other than that, you know, just showing up every day. I think that's the hardest thing. And I think that's the biggest thing that's overlooked by young entrepreneurs is it don't run itself. And you have to consume yourself and you have to almost be obsessed with your business to make it work. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned in business is as soon as you take your hand off the pulse, as soon as you take your hand off the throttle, things start to go wrong.
Starts to stray.
Yeah. And even with the best crew and the best people, no one's going to work for your company the way you're going to work for your company. No one's going to care about your company the way you care about your company. And yeah, so many guys get into it and it's fucking vacation time right away. And they're like, okay, it's set up. We're ready. I'm gone. And I think that, you know, there's been a lot of people that entered the game that just didn't take it serious enough.
At what point do you think this is going to relax in New Mexico? Right. I have my projection.
Will it? You know what I mean? It's almost like, you know, the people that go and get perms and, you know, they think it's going to fucking fully go straight again. And it never does. Their hair is just fucking different after that. You know what I mean? And they have a little wave to their hair after one perm. You know, it might not be the tight fucking Jerry curl, but it's never going back, you know, Goldilocks straight again. Yeah. I don't think this industry is ever going to go back to easy. Yeah. Not that it ever was, but at one time it was less challenging. Mm-hmm. And I don't, like I said, the cat's out the bag. I think it's going to be years before we really establish any type of.
Is Texas going legal?
Texas is going legal.
When?
Within 5 years. I think the old heads are going to battle. Mm-hmm. But once Texas goes legal here, once again, we don't have a ton of new people, you know, this huge boom of 21-year-olds coming. So we have to rely on Texas.
What does that do to New Mexico when Texas goes legal?
That makes New Mexico not that interesting as a place to make money for the big dogs. And so a lot of people think that once the big dogs, I had this talk with Carver, shout out Carver Family Farms, go check them out. Awesome people, great product. But Carver's concept was once things chill out, that craft and the mom and pop in New Mexico would rise to the top because geographically, the state's hard to deliver and serve. And populace wise, the big dogs are just going to realize they can't make as much money here as they can in the bigger states. This could be a huge thing for the locals. This could be a huge thing for the mom and pop and the smaller guy, because look, the big boys roll out and that leaves us to take our state back the way, in my opinion, it should be from the beginning. You know, a lot of the MSOs and a lot of the low value manufacturers that have moved in, they don't make the product. You know, they buy bulk material from local manufacturers and local makers, and they put it in their packaging.
And basically sell you the same shit you could get from multiple local shops.
Local brands.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, what they do for a market is nothing special. And the products are already here. The products are already being made. You could buy them in a local brand, you know what I mean? Or you could buy them in a California brand or whatever.
Yeah.
For some reason, New Mexicos love Cali shit. New Mexicos love out-of-state shit. And what I don't think they realize is that they're buying the same product.
Right.
You know, but they're paying a premium because of the box it's in.
Right.
So once those companies roll out, once they take off to Ohio, Florida, New York, Jersey, wherever you name it, better state to make money in, that's when I really feel that the Carver mentality of the mom and pop kind of rising out of the dust, you know, shaking themselves off and being relevant again is really going to happen.
Something like the microbreweries.
Yes, 100%.
The microbreweries.
100%.
Okay.
And that's our only hope as small cannabis, is that you can stay relevant long enough and stay afloat long enough to become one of those craft names.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a big beer drinker. I'll do it every once in a while, but there's a lot of beer drinkers that won't touch a Budweiser or a fucking Miller Lite, whatever, Coors. They like Bosque Brewery, La Cumbre, Santa Fe Brewing Company. They like the local craft brews, or an out of state, but still a local craft brew. And there's a ton of people that'll tell you like, oh man, that's fucking piss. You're drinking warm piss, Coors Light.
Yeah.
You know, I drink whatever IPA, fuck about. There's a reason, because there's a certain quality and there's a certain product you get with a craft company. And so that's like I said, that's my hope. That's my goal, is that yeah, the craft companies and the quality caring companies that aren't, you know, big dick fucking Budweiser.
Actually, I'm glad
will stand out.
I'm glad you bring this up. In New Mexico, who would you consider at the table of craft companies?
Ooh, that's a good one. Farmers.
Yeah.
You know, we definitely consider ourselves a craft company. Carver, you know, who I just mentioned, you know, I'll re-shout him out. And I'm sorry if I forget anybody. Don't fucking at me or message me. I got a lot of good people, good craft companies in the industry.
Yeah.
Lava Leaf.
Okay.
Lava Leaf, man. Do you want to talk about, you know, they're a co-op grow. Most people don't realize that. You know, they're, you know, truly craft. I mean, they're burying crystals in their soil. Like, you know, those guys really care about the energy and frequency and everything of their product. You know what I mean? Of the quality, the end quality of their product. You know, got to shout out the country boys, you know, Cowboy RX. You know, those guys are third generation farmers, you know, farming on their grandpa's, their great grandpa's ag land.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Real cowboys, you know? So, you know, there's that level of craft there. You know, makers, there's a lot of good makers out there too. Like I said, there's enough. There's more.
There's a lot more.
There's more, but
Yeah.
if you look closely, they're all over. And finding those craft makers, craft growers, man, I think you'll start to find a difference of feel, a difference of high, a difference of quality in the products you purchase from them. And yeah, it might be $10, $15, $20 more at the register, but take the chance, treat yourself,
Way worse.
and try it. Freyer Farms, man, some of the best flower in the state. I'm gonna tell you right now, Freyer Farms, small grow, almost a one-man operation. You know, maybe there's a helper there and there, family member, but you know, some of the best flower, best tasting, best high you're gonna get in the state. Local Albuquerque guy. But yeah, there's, you know, we could go on hours about all the craft companies.
So, you could fix the problems if you could just wave a magic wand, and a couple of the bullshit problems go away in New Mexico. What problems are those? What would you like to see fixed? What would you fix immediately?
Oh man. Hard questions here on the Weed Stock Show. You know, there's a lot of problems. I say one of the biggest problems is bad actors. So I don't know if it's a fix per se, but I would just like them to bow out and go back into fucking, no offense to anybody, but go back into real estate or something, you know, whatever other job they used to do. Got some lovely realtors in the game.
Car sale, go back to
car sales, whatever, fucking
whatever the old hustle was.
fucking fast food. Who fucking knows, bro?
Right.
But I think
Business model.
I think the ones that aren't here because they have a passion for the plant should bow out. I think that's the number one fix. You know, or at least get out of my state.
That is one.
But ultimately,
Great answer.
ultimately bow out. I don't think the answer is regulation. I don't think it's fucking HB 10 RoboCop bill where it's fucking illegal search and, or, you know, unwarranted search and seizure. I don't think that's the answer. I mean, I'm an old school cannabis guy. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not a cop caller. Right. So, you know, adding more fucking law enforcement to anything is not the answer. So you ain't gonna get me to walk into that one. You know, don't. The other thing is, I think a legitimate blacklist.
Ooh.
And a lot of people, California actually got the state involved, and the state is now verifying vendors. Okay, I don't know if they actually did it. Look it up, Google it. But they had proposed to make a state blacklist. And what I mean by blacklist is motherfuckers that don't pay their bills. We talked about a little bit earlier about one of the biggest hurdles as an entrepreneur in a small business, and that's, you know, getting people to pay. So no, I think there should be a standard blacklist. And yeah, if the state does want to do something, I think just like a good standing with CRS, with your state taxes, I think you should have a good standing with your vendors. And yeah, if you owe a certain amount past due, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to
Continue business.
You know, there should be a good standing. So I think a real blacklist, and I don't even think you need to get the state involved, because I think if there was a true blacklist, the cannabis businesses and the entrepreneurs in the state could just say, hey, well, we don't want to deal with so-and-so because they didn't pay their bill.
So like there's a lot of implications and repercussions of what he's saying. And like these big time companies, 2 or 3 of them could take out a loan from these companies and extend them so long it just ruins companies.
Correct.
And they do it as a business model all over the state, and that's actually kind of what he's addressed.
To the tune of 100 fucking K.
Yeah.
To the tune of it, you know, go ask any mom and pop business right now how long they can afford to give you 100K out of their account. Number one, they probably don't have 100K. But if they did, it probably wouldn't be very long before that 100K was needed. So
all they're going to do is put in more product and never get.
Thomas, I love how you said loan. Terms, giving somebody terms on product you have sold them is a fucking loan. And not many people really kind of understand it like that. When you front somebody product, you're giving them a loan. And so, yeah, these larger companies are taking out $100,000 loans from companies that don't have $100,000 to loan, and they're not paying them. And maybe it goes 6 months, maybe it goes 3 months, maybe it goes whatever, but that company might not be able to withstand being short 100 fucking K.
Right.
And so, yeah, add 3 companies to that. Maybe it's 300K that'll cripple a small business within a couple months.
They were talking about that today at the summit, and he just danced over it real nonchalantly, but he said it to the whole room, like, you guys are just rotating everybody else's money and you ain't paying anything.
One of my early entrepreneurial mentors, Jesse James, I don't know if you watched Monster Garage and West Coast Choppers, but the dude was a fucking beast businessman. And those of you that don't know, he had "fuck you, pay me" on his palm, tattooed on his palm, and that was his thing. And it wasn't that he was an asshole or anything. It's just he knew his worth. He provided a good product. And at the end of the day, there really wasn't much else to say other than "fuck you, pay me."
Yeah.
Some people might not like that. Some people might think that's too brash, but business,
fucking foundation,
business, relationships, every interaction you have in this fucking life is based on the exchange of value. You got a value, I got a value. For us to vibe, we got to exchange it. Right. When I go, you got a dispensary, you know what I mean? That's valuable for me because you can sell my product. I have products that will easily sell in your dispensary. That's value for you. So if we do business, we have to exchange value. Right. The second you don't pay, that's not an exchange. There's no value exchange there. Right. The second my products aren't what they say they are, whatever, I'm not exchanging that value. So if you're entering into business and there's not a value exchange, if you're entering into a relationship and there's not a value exchange, you better get the fuck out, and you need to beware of doing business with people that aren't offering that value exchange, because you're not going to be in business very long.
Yeah. So what are we telling people right now? Don't get into the cannabis industry. Now is not the time.
You better have something good to offer. You better bring something special to the table. And I tell anybody, before you get into any industry, you better have something special to bring to the table. But don't get into the industry thinking that it's easy money. And I wouldn't get into the industry if you're not serious about what you're doing, and you don't have the heart, the pockets, and the time to bleed, because that's the biggest advice I could give any person getting into cannabis is get ready to bleed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you might be profitable. You might have a great month. Yeah, you might fucking kill it. Your brand might be the next hottest thing.
Pay taxes.
Wait till taxes come. Wait till you have half your team walk out. Wait till you find out half your team is stealing. Wait till you have fucking half your vendors don't pay you. Wait till
that big COA thing that just hit and took everything.
Wait till you picked the wrong lab to send your shit to. Yeah. You never know. Wait till you made the wrong choice. And just like life, business is choices. You got to make the right choices. It's fucking hard. I hate making choices. I don't even like to choose fucking dinner no more, because me and my wife can get in a fight at the drop of what's for dinner. You know what I mean? Fuck you. You know what I mean? And then we're on our way to McDonald's or whatever. But yeah, man, making the right choices is a make or break it right now. So yeah, if you're going to get into it, make the right choices. And if you're going to stay in it, make the right choices.
Don, I won't take up any more of your time. I can't tell you how much just this little amount of time you gave me.
Dude, love talking with you always, Thomas.
It was exceptional. There's nobody in the industry I get this kind of work from.
Thank you, brother. And like I said, we're here to stay. I've told many people that I'll die on the hill, and we're not going out without a fight, but I do think the industry should level out a little bit coming up in the next year or two. And the New Mexico industry.
Yeah.
And it's just as a market matures, and I think the ones that need to be here and belong to be here will withstand it.
Yep. Agreed. At the end of the first 5 years, I see everybody who thought they were going to make money and didn't is going to pull their contract and move along.
Yeah. And to all the fakers and ones that aren't in it for, the authenticity, get on. Go take it to the next state. We don't need that shit here.
Buy your weed from me. Stop trying to grow it. Get it from him. Don, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Many blessings.
Nice. Thank you, sir.